Hi, I'm Mike Allton from the Social Media Hat, and you're listening to the Social Media Talks podcast with Alan Hennessy from compassmedia.ie.
Welcome to Social Media Talks podcasts, brought to you by compassmedia.ie.
Hello and thank you for joining me. This is the Social Media Talks podcast, brought to you by compassmedia.ie, episode number 44. I'm your host, Alan Hennessy, and this is the podcast to help business owners who want to learn more about social media marketing. And if you'd like to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/resources/podcasts. You can also join our Facebook group by logging on to facebook.com/groups/social media talks. And we're looking forward to today's show. Today I'm going to be joined by Mike Allton. And Mike Allton is a professional blogger and also a brand evangelist, an author and a speaker. And we're going to be talking to Mike all about blogging for business. So I do hope you can stay with us for that. And we look forward to your company. So without further ado, I think we will transition straight over to the interview with Mike. Hi Mike, how are you today? Thanks for joining us today on the Social Media Talks podcast. You're very welcome. Delighted to have you on with us.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And of course, we're going to be talking all about today. Our chosen topic is blogging best practices. So I'm looking forward to learning loads from the master, as they say. So, Mike, you might give us a little bit of a background. I've given you a brief introduction at the start of the show, but if you want to give us a little background on yourself before we dig in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those of you listening, I've been blogging for over 10 years. And when I started blogging over 10 years ago, it was to support just a general internet marketing, web design business that I'd started for myself. And in that process, I was writing about social media. I was writing about how to blog and how to market your online business because I thought that would sell me new web building clients and new businesses who wanted to hire me. And of course it didn't. It was totally wrong for my audience. They needed to know how they should get started with a website, that sort of thing. Reading about Facebook was too far down the journey for them. But in that process, I discovered that I really liked to write. I really liked to blog. I enjoyed it. I had a passion for it. I was good at teaching people through blogging how to use various social networks and mediums. So after a few years of that, I started the Social Media Hats. That was about 6 years ago today. And just as a place where I could blog about the things that I really like to blog about, which were social media, email marketing, and blogging. And it's kind of worked out.
Brilliant. And I'm a regular fan, and I always make sure I always see your blogs coming out because the content is it is fantastic. And if you haven't read any of the blogs that Mike produces, do go out and check it out. It's thesocialmediahat.com, and you'll find some fantastic information on there on a wide range of subjects as well. And and I think that's the part of blogging that people sort of get all worked up and they get all confused about it because they say, oh, I have to write about this, that, and then. So that's, I think, what we're going to be talking about more or less today is about blogging and the best practices. So I suppose if someone's starting out new to blogging, where should they really be starting? What is the starting point for them?
If you really want to start your blog right from the beginning, and this isn't just a hobby, this is something that you actually want to be a professional blogger, or you've got a different business and you want to create blog content to support that business, where you need to start is your homework. You need to research who your audience is going to be, the topics that they're interested in. Use tools like Keyword Planner or SEMrush to see how many people are actually searching on the phrases and the keywords and the topics that you think you're going to talk about. You want to have enough volume to support that. There needs to be enough people searching that they might actually be interested in coming to read what you had to say, but also not too much that there's so many people out there writing about and searching for that particular topic that the competition is high and you'll never be heard. Find that nice medium, that happy medium between those two levels. That way, when you actually get started, when you build your site and you start to create some content, you'll be highly focused on the people that you want to talk to, and you won't waste time creating content that isn't going to serve you in the long run. And I speak from personal experience on this. When I started the Social Media Head, I was writing about email signatures and office furniture, and I was live blogging Apple tech events. I live blogged the Apple 3GS, the iPhone 3GS release, for instance. That was a total waste of time. Total waste of time, because nobody was interested in that particular content. I didn't attract the people that I wanted to attract. I didn't attract really anybody at all, because I was just throwing content out into the void amongst a sea of other businesses writing about the same boring topics. So be focused in what you have to write. That's my absolute best advice for a new blogger just starting out. Don't rush to build a WordPress site first. Do your homework first.
Yeah, and I think it's very important as well, because you see so many blogs out there, and it begins that people it's just passing you by and you don't even bother to look at it. So I think it's again, I suppose it's about finding your niche. It's also about finding then something that interests you, excites you, and adding value to the person that's going to read it. And hopefully they're going to be, your potential customers in the future, or that they will become to you. You will become an influencer within that area. So. And I think as well as that, where you say about the keyword research and stuff like that, I'd like to expand on that, because I find that fascinating. And it's only from reading a number of your blogs that I've really homed in on that. And yes, I totally agree. You do get a lot more success and a lot more traction with your blogs when it comes to actually when you start doing your research and you're doing your keyword research. So we might speak a little bit about that first.
Right. So the idea is that we're going to use some tools to help us sort out how many people are actually out there searching for or are interested in what we want to write about, whether it's at a high level, broad topics, or whether it's very specific keywords for specific blog posts. It just depends on what you want to find out at that particular moment. And you can start with Google Keyword Planner. That'll give you some basic ideas in terms of what the volume is and what the competition is for specific phrases. And then you can move on to things like BuzzSumo or SEMrush, like I mentioned, and really start to fine tune what it is that you're going to write about as a business and what it is that you're going to write about specifically your blog posts. For example, you might find a topic where there's 5,000 people a month researching that particular topic. But maybe that's just a specific topic, right? Like how to link to a Facebook post. That's a strange sounding article that I wrote a long time ago. That's one of my number one traffic drivers. But if that's the only thing that they're interested in, that's not enough to build a blog around. That's like one blog post, right? But you want to find a topic where you can continue to add to it, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, whatever the frequency is that you feel like you're going to produce content. There has to be a deep enough well there that you can keep going back to it and writing more and more and more. So there's got to be some balance going on. And this is why I keep saying it's homework, it's research. This isn't something you're just going to quickly figure out or stumble upon. You're going to have to write it down, put a spreadsheet or a document. I don't want to say bad words on your podcast, but you're going to have to record this information somewhere to keep track of it, because it's going to be hard to keep track of it in your mind once you really begin to dig into it. And you're going to go down some rabbit holes that might not lead anywhere. And you got to be okay with that and prepared for that. So begin to note things like, what's the volume of keyword research on broader topics like Facebook or social media? Speaking from my industry, obviously those of you listening are coming from different industries. So you're going to want to focus on what it is that you want to write about, who you want to reach, and think about the kinds of problems they might have, the kinds of questions they have. What are those questions that are being asked on a month-to-month, day-to-day basis? Can you answer them? Because if you can, then you've stumbled on something that's potentially a really good overall topic and specific topics for your blog.
Yeah, and I found that as well, like from when we're training with businesses and with clients and with groups, and the same questions sort of keep coming back up. There may be variations of them, but the same questions keep coming back up. So like that, I write a few blogs on them, and I put them out, and I will post them at particular times when I know that they're of relevance. So, and I see the point of where you're saying there that, it is actually about doing the keyword research. And if, as you say, you're not, our business is, I suppose, social media and digital marketing and stuff like that. So there's abundance of topics to talk about within that, which is great. But if you are in a niche where you're selling, I don't know, say air conditioning units, what is it that is going to attract people to, read about an air conditioning unit? Because they're not really that very, exciting to be writing about. But if there is an angle, you got to, what are your customers asking you every day? So take note of that, and then I think that's working it into the research there. So I think that's a very good. It gets you to understand and to become more focused as much as anything else, but it also helps you find the content that's going to be relevant, and who knows the best, but you are an expert in what you talk about.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up air conditioning units, because that actually ties really well into one of my favorite examples. There are many businesses out there that can relate to the small business that's selling appliances, right? So if we're using that as an example, it's wonderful, because that kind of business isn't going to blog daily, probably not even going to blog weekly, maybe once a month. And that's fine, because the kind of content that kind of business needs to create isn't what we would think about when we think about prototypical blog content. They're not really writing articles on how to do stuff per se. What you need to focus on in that case is what we call bottom of funnel content. So if you're a small appliance company, the people that you're trying to reach are people who need a new appliance, or they need an existing appliance repaired. And so you have to put yourself in their mindset and think, okay, what questions are they asking? They're asking things like, what's the best appliance for me? How do these different appliances compare? What kind of problems am I likely to experience with different air conditioning units? So this brings us to my favorite example. Marcus Sheridan shares this. And Marcus Sheridan, you probably know, for those of you listening who don't know Marcus, he's one of the preeminent speakers and teachers on content marketing. He teaches bottom of funnel marketing and content creation like this. And one of his clients was Yale Appliance, small appliance company in Boston, Massachusetts. And Yale Appliance was a reseller of the top brands, Whirlpool, Maytag, all the top appliance brands. And they were struggling 5, 6 years ago. And they started to create bottom of funnel content. And in their case, what it looked like is comparisons between different brands and makes and models. And some of their content, one of their famous content was the 5 most serviced, least reliable washing machines. So anybody who wanted to know what washing machines not to buy, this was the list for them. Because it was showing you that these machines, they're garbage, they're rubbish, they're getting serviced all the time. And Yale had their own service team, so they knew from their own service records and customer service reports, these are the machines that we are out there every single day having to fix the same issues all the time. So they could speak from experience, which is what you want to do when you're creating content. So that became one of their top drivers, because people would come to their site after doing some Google searches on what not to buy in terms of washing machines. They'd find this content, and then, oh, by the way, here's what you should buy, because Yale did what you're supposed to do, and turned that reader traffic and converted them into another piece of content or some other kind of lead gen or next step, whatever the case might be. And people became customers. And that kind of content changed their business. I don't want to say overnight, because that's oversimplifying, but within a matter of months, turn their whole business around by creating the right kind of content for their target audience.
And yet again, they were adding value to their customers, because the people that were coming to the site were seeing, these guys, they're giving out great information and they're very reliable, and they have what I need, because they sell whatever the washing machines are, they sell them. So Why am I going to go anywhere else if they're, and that's,
Exactly.
it becomes, as well as that, as much as anything else, a loyalty thing as well, where you can see, and I totally agree with you. Like I had a conversation with someone a couple of months back, and they says, oh no, you shouldn't be giving out all of your information in blog posts, and you shouldn't be doing this, and you shouldn't. And I'm going, but how are people going to know what I do if I don't share my content with them, and hopefully instill some sort of value that's gonna come back to me. And that particular person says, oh no, well you don't, you keep that information for yourself. And I go, really? Why would you be doing something so silly? Like, if you're selling washing machines and it's in a bricks and mortar business, you're not going to hide the washing machines in the back room. So, and I equate everything really to real life when it comes to social and digital marketing, because I think a lot of people understand it a lot more. And if you can explain that, and I wrote a number of blogs like that with regards to, explaining how it sounds in the real world as opposed to online. And the amount of people that have come back and says, that's a brilliant blog, because I understand it a lot more easier now. So it's,
and again, I love this example that we're talking about with washing machines, because let's think about it from a consumer's perspective. How many different places can I go to buy a washing machine?
Yeah.
More importantly, how many places can I go to buy the exact same washing machine? I can pick a GE model and I can Google it, and I can find the big box stores, Lowe's and Home Depot and Sam's Club probably, and a bunch of others, plus some local appliance stores. They've got all the same models, so they've got all the same specs. It's not like, Gary's Appliance Shop has a GE washing machine that Lowe's doesn't, right?
Yeah.
It's the exact same model because they don't make any other models, right? GE's got their line. So what differentiates Gary's Appliance Shop with Lowe's? It's got to be something. Gary's got to have that USP, that unique selling proposition, right? And in most cases, it's going to be, things like service and customer care and those kinds of things, which you cannot possibly convey in a product description or a stat sheet, right? But you can convey it through content, particularly video. I mean, I know we're talking about blogging, but man, if Gary gets on a video and talks about his customers and how much he cares about his customers. One of my favorite marketers in the world, Stephanie Liu, she does live video strategizing. She's out in San Diego. One of her customers is a big, it's an HVAC kind of repair shop, I guess. And so they did this multi-camera streaming event where they were on camera and they were shooting video and they were helping their viewers understand these are real people.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know anybody at Lowe's, but maybe I know Gary. That's the differentiator between me deciding to go to Lowe's and me deciding to go to the guy that I know, who I've gotten to know through his content and through his videos. And I've gotten to know, like, and trust Gary. So I'm going to go buy from Gary if I possibly can.
Perfect. Yeah. And it's true. And then, of course, like when we're talking about all of them, like using and I go back to sort of the keywords as well. And it's something that you brought up in one of your blogs, and I agree with it, is that this long tail keywords.
Yes.
I think that's quite an important part, because some people just think, keywords are just one word and that's it and that's all I use. But we might talk a little bit about the long tail keywords. Let's try and get my mouth around that.
Yeah, it's a terrible name, long tail keywords. But for those of you listening, what we're talking about is a phrase that's at least 3 words, preferably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 words long. So when we say the thing keyword, that doesn't necessarily literally mean only one word. Your keyword can be multiple words. So we say long tail keyword, that means 3 or more words in that keyword phrase. And it means that you've actually, again, plugged that phrase into a tool and you saw people were searching on a phrase like how to mention on Facebook, or how to tag a page on Facebook, or how to link to a post on Facebook. That's a long tail phrase. That's a perfect example, right? People are asking a question, and if they're asking that question a lot, or if they're searching for something more localized, again, I love our example, washing machines, St. Charles, Missouri. All right, somebody's looking for shops here in St. Charles, where I'm at, where they can go to buy a washing machine, and that applies to every single geolocated business, every brick and mortar business in the world. People are using the internet right now to find a shop like yours because they maybe don't know you and they don't know your name, but they want to look for you, which means your website has to talk about that thing a lot. It has to be known to Google that you are all about washing machines. And of course, you can't just say washing machine, washing machine, washing machine. You've got to talk about it in a meaningful, relative way. You've got to use what they call semantic language, which means not only we're talking about washing machines, we're talking about drying machines and small appliances and home appliances and all these other phrases and words that interconnect and relate to each other. That's going to support the fact that you're creating content based around that single long-term phrase that you ultimately, that's what you want to rank for, whatever it is.
Yeah, it is. And we had a guy on a couple of months back talking about SEO and talking about that. And it's just when you're saying, about the semantics and stuff like that, it really is. And it's so important. And, you go on so many websites and it's just, here's the catalog. Here's the catalog that this is the website. And then when you actually talk to the customer, you talk to these people, you say, your website's not great, but it has all the information. And I said, but it doesn't excite me. It doesn't bring me in. It doesn't, give me anything. I don't get a feel of the company. I just feel like it's just like one page after another. I might as well be looking at a blank book at the end of the day. So, creating that warmth, I suppose, as much across your website. And, and I think your blogs will stand out and will enhance that from that side of it. It gives you another angle. It gives you more content. It promotes you as much as anything else. It shows how good you are. And of course, then when you move in to the actual, when you've done all your keywords research and you've done, you started that, the next step to that would be, I suppose, to start creating your content. And you've talked about it, and you were on Facebook and you were talking about what comes from, it shouldn't be on a sheet. It should be what's in your head, and it's what's more so than anything. And I'd like to maybe talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So this is the real crux of the issue. Then once you've gone through, like you said, the homework and you've done the research and you've built the blog and that sort of thing. Okay, now what do you write about and how do you do it in a way that you're not spending all day long trying to create a single piece of content, because that's not going to be good for anybody. So the one first big tip that I gave in that particular short video was to try to write about what's in your head. That's not going to apply 100% of the time. I get it. Sometimes we're going to have to do some research for a particular topic and do some deep dives and cite sources and do all that sort of thing. But most of the content that you create should not read like a college research paper. It should be interesting. It should be entertaining if possible. I mean, do everything you can to make it as light and entertaining as possible. And try to, again, speak from your own personal experience. That's why one of the most successful pieces of content that you create is story content. For business, share stories about how you've helped other people, share stories about your customers. And in particular, try to create the story in such a way that the customer's the hero, not you.
Yeah.
You were just there to help them a little bit and guide them a little bit. If you make the customer the hero of your stories, that's going to relate extremely well to your audience. And again, it's going to go back to that, getting them to know, like, and trust you. They're going to feel good about you once they've read those stories. Yeah.
And I'll give you a little example of that. 5-6 years ago, I went and I done a postgraduate diploma in digital marketing. Many years ago, I'm like that. I had worked in corporate business for many years, and I went out and I says, right, I'm going to get my own, need to get a degree. And of course, I hadn't been in college since, I was back in my yes.
Let's say younger.
I like that word. Yeah, since I was younger. Yeah, a lot younger, by the way. But like that, I was going back to college, and it's a daunting thing anyway, as like for any individual or whatever. So like that, went in college, done it, whatever, started doing it, and whatever. And I decided that I'd actually write a blog, because I'd been writing small blogs and bits and pieces, and then I says I'll do one back to college in whatever it was, your 40s, or I can't remember the exact name of it, but I gave a description of that daunting feeling of going into your first day back in college. You hadn't been in college since you were in school, blah blah blah, and that whole thing. It was probably, I'd say, within about 2 or 3 years of writing it, it was the most read blog that I had ever posted on. And I still get people who say to me, oh, I read your blog when you went back to college. And I'm going, like, that was 5, 6, 7 years ago nearly at this stage again. So, and I think it resonated with so many people in a similar situation that they got value. So when they did meet me, they didn't feel as though, oh, this guy is, he's a digital marketing or whatever he may be. They see me as the same as them. So it was great to be able to, have that, I suppose, that connection with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really speaks to this idea that as a business, we need to create content that reaches different kinds of customers at different stages. We often talk about the buyer's journey, right? Where people are discovering that they even have a problem or a need, and then they're slowly discovering what their options are, what their solutions are, who they can turn to, and then ultimately they're picking and choosing between possible vendors and solutions. So I mentioned bottom of funnel content. That's really what that refers to, the bottom of that sales funnel. But at the top of the sales funnel, we have things like what you were just talking about now, where you're sharing personal stories about yourself. You can create content that answers very, very specific questions thoroughly, like the kinds of frequently asked questions that your own customers might be coming to you with. That's going to bring in the traffic that gets them to know about you a little bit, maybe subscribe to your blog if they're interested in what you have to say, if they're interested in learning more from you, if it's that kind of a business, right? So it's taking the time, again, this is an ongoing thing, not a one-time thing, taking the time to understand who your audience is and what are some of their pain points, what are some of the things that they're interested in, and recognizing that they're all in different places and there's different kinds of content we need to be creating at different times in that journey.
And I suppose as well is targeting that right to their needs and to their wants. And, as you say, that know, like, and trust scenario, that comes back into it. And you get that. You feel that you know the person. I would say that, like, we interviewed Ted Rubens and he was saying, you have to get people. People have to get you. They also have to, you have to feel that they know you. So when they see you online, that they say, oh, well, I know what Mike is doing, or I know what Alan's doing. And you feel connected to them as much as anything else. I see that point, and like that, through blogging, it can help you. And it also, it's a fantastic way of showing off your expertise as well. That's the thing I love about it. And it's very educational. It's, it helps you understand more about whatever it is. The first thing I would do is I would go to Google if I'm looking to figure out something. I'll say, is there a blog about this? You'll always find something on the subject, because, as you say, people are doing that research of saying, right, okay, what are people searching for? And then they're writing about it. It can, like, I know it's quite complex when it comes to blogging, but when you simplify it, and like what you've done there, it shows that, how easy it actually can be done.
Right. And it's one of the reasons why I like talking about video so much. And I get the irony that I don't actually create a lot of video myself, because I actually enjoy writing, but I know not everybody else likes to write. So if you're listening and you're thinking, Mike, I hear you, I know I should be creating content, but I don't want to write. So this is for you. So pay attention. Start with video, right? Alan, you and I, we're actually creating video right now. This is going to come out as a podcast, but we've started with video content. And if you do that, if you start with video content, whether it's just you talking to the camera, or you interviewing somebody else, or you being interviewed by somebody else, or even if it's a panel discussion, whatever the case might be, you start with that video content. Now you've got so many directions you can go with that content. You can get the transcript done, and you can write a summary, an introduction, an introduction, and now you've got a blog post, right? You can strip the audio out, and now you've got a podcast. You can take that video and upload it to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can chop it up and put the smaller sections on Instagram or something like that. Like, Alan, if I've answered something really cool and I took just a minute to do that, which is probably not likely because I talk too much, you can take that 1 minute snippet and you can upload it to Instagram as a 1 minute video. Sorry, I probably haven't given you that in this interview, but
you just did.
So you can take those short things, you can take that video content and repurpose it in a dozen or more different ways. And again, if you don't like to blog, this is super easy. Have somebody else ask you questions about your customers, about your business, about your products, about your services, about how you go about it. Ask them, expertise stuff or do like you're doing here, Alan, and bring on other people and allow them to shine while at the same time providing tremendous value to your audience. Do that as a Facebook Live. So now you're getting a lot of organic reach on Facebook and then spin that into content. I work for Agorapulse. And one of the things that we do at Agorapulse is we work with influencers. We work with social media influencers who have broad audiences who want to know, what tool should I use to manage social media? And of course, we want them to use Agorapulse. So we find people like Jay Baer and Kim Garst and Ian Cleary and so on, and we get them to talk about our tool. So one of the things we're doing right now is our social media guy, Scott, is interviewing in Facebook Lives 10 of our ambassadors. And he's asking them basically, what are your top 5 favorite tools, regardless of what they're for, social media business or whatever? What are your top 5 favorite tools? Of course, Agorapulse is going to be one of them amongst the other tools.
It better be number one.
It better be. Yeah, they're fired. So he's doing a 30-minute Facebook Live. He just did one today with Dustin Stout. He said, Dustin, what are your top 5 tools? Dustin goes through them. This is the tool. This is what I use it for. This is what I like about it, blah, blah, blah. 30 minutes. Now we've got a Facebook Live video. My editor is going to turn that into a blog post for Dustin that he'll publish on his blog for us. And now we've got content on Dustin's site that talks about his top 5 tools that we can promote, Dustin can promote, and we can drive traffic to. And Agorapulse is among that list. And we're going to do that 10 times over the course of the next 3 weeks. Yeah. And now all of a sudden we've got 10 Facebook Live videos and 10 blog posts from 10 big influencers out there. That's going to be a great win for us as a brand.
Yeah, and like that, I totally agree. I do that. We do it with the show notes for each of the shows, and I strip it out. And I was actually only talking to another podcast, and they were saying, "God, you do so much promotion for one show," and I go, "No, I really don't. All I do is I just strip it back and I just take pieces from it, and at this stage of the game, now I know exactly what I can and what I can't do. And as we're talking, I'm already thinking, I'm saying, right, well, we can use that piece, or, I can take a quote, I can use it as a tweet. Mike said this. I can, as I said, I can create a whole show notes, which is like a blog in itself. I take the audio, and it's remarketing as much as anything. So, and a lot of people think that when you do a podcast and it's a weekly podcast, that after the week is over, that's it. You're on to the next one. I've gone back and I've used quotes from, say, Madeline Sklar when we interviewed her, and that's gone back a couple of months back. Still push out content about her, still push out content about whoever I was talking to, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. So it's been able to remarket and reuse your content. And like as you say there, you've 10 live videos, you've also got 10 blog posts, you've probably got another, maybe whatever it is, if they're saying the top 5 tools, if you take 10 people, that's, there's 50 tools or at least that you can talk about through posts. So it's, and I think a lot of people don't see that, and they sort of say, oh, right, well, I never thought about doing it that way. But like that, as you say, when you start looking at the bigger picture and saying, okay, well, what else can I use this blog post for? So whether it be taking a click to tweet even, it's another fantastic little clip, which brings you, where does it bring you? Back to your website. It's driving that traffic back to your website and showing you as a thought leader. And here's me telling you, because you're the expert, and I'm actually sitting back.
You've been doing this as long as I have. Your audience knows.
But no, I do. I think blogging is so important to any business. It really is. It's so important, and a lot of businesses don't do it, and they just say, "Oh, I haven't got the time." But like as you explained there's so many ways that you can do that, and I love that idea of doing a video and using the transcript of that to create a blog post. It's an ingenious little idea. It's great for someone to starting out with as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's a relatively easy way to create that content. That's why we're doing it. I'm going to be transparent about that. This is fairly easy, right? I don't have to spend hours researching. I don't spend hours writing a piece of content and editing it and that sort of thing. Start with the video, share what you know, or get somebody else to share what they know, and turn that into a blog post. Now, that's not the only thing you should ever do with your blog.
It's just,
you need to create long form content. And again, those of you listening, sorry, you might not like what I'm about to say, but you have to have some long form content on your site. By long form, I'm talking about 2,500 words or more, preferably 10,000 words. Now, sure, if you do a 1 hour video, that's probably 10,000 words, but it's not going to be structured and focused like an actual blog post. So let's be realistic about that. If we're doing an interview, there's a lot of conversation that goes on, some filler words that end up creating content that isn't necessarily valuable in and of itself. But if you sit down and you find a topic that's core to your business and you create an article, maybe even an ebook that really, really digs into it and it really helps your audience understand something important, crucial, powerful, if you attack a pain point and really, really help them, that long form content, it's going to get shared more, it's going to drive more search results, and therefore it's going to drive more business, more actual leads and sales in your business. And we've got the data to support that. That's just not just me saying that. HubSpot, Content Marketing Institute, many other places, they've all done surveys and analysis, and they show time and time again, it's the long form content that performs the best over time.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have to measure it, and we have to be able to make sure that we are, because a lot of people will just put a blog post out and it's there and look, let's just go, let's go and off and do something else and forget about it. And then if someone comes along to them and says, oh, I was looking at Facebook and how do I do this? Oh, suddenly, a blog post that you might have wrote 6 months ago just comes into your head and say, oh, I have a blog post about that. But, there is that time in the middle of it when you should be even thinking about it and revisiting it and updating it if needs be, There's no harm in that.
Right. That's why it's critical that you've got Google Analytics and that you're using it. Installing is just the first step. You need to be looking at it. And I get if you've never done it before, it's going to be overwhelming because it's a lot of graphs and tables and numbers. Just make it a habit, daily, weekly, monthly, to look and start to look around at the different charts and graphs that are there so that you become familiar with it over time. Read some blog posts, watch some videos on Google Analytics, and you'll be up to speed in no time, I promise. And as you are doing that on a regular basis, you'll spot the changes. You'll spot the trends. You'll notice all of a sudden one particular piece of content is driving more traffic than it ever did before. And so, of course, the natural question is, why? Why is that? Maybe it's ranking better in Google. Maybe an influencer shouted it out or shared it in a newsletter, something like that. We don't know until you look at it. And then once you look at it and you figure out why something has happened, unfortunately, sometimes it's also the reverse, right? Sometimes something's not ranking as well and it's getting less traffic. And that's even more important of a time to ask why, what has happened, what's going on. Now you can take some action and you can make it, like you said, an improvement, a change, an optimization. Maybe you can just leverage the fact that, okay, now I've got a blog post that I wrote 3 years ago that's suddenly getting 300 visitors a day. What am I going to do about that? How am I going to leverage that traffic? Because the blog post, when I first wrote it 3 years ago, it was okay, but maybe my business has changed, or maybe I wasn't, as a mature blogger, so I didn't have a call to action or anything like that. So now I look at that and say, okay, well, I can go into that article and I can add a strong call to action. I can add links to other articles. I can add a digital download lead gen and get that 300 people a day to do something more than just read that article and bounce back out. So critical that you're doing that. And while you're in Google Analytics, make sure that you've got some goals set up, whether it's email subscriptions, product purchases, visits to your contact page, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish with your content. Make sure that Google Analytics understands what that is and can measure it so that you can get more out of Analytics. Analytics will tell you, this is your traffic that's driving conversions, and this is your traffic that's not driving conversions. And that will help guide you in terms of what to edit and what to produce next.
Sound words, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Mike, I could sit here and talk to you for ages about this. It's one of those subjects that I'm very passionate about, and I really enjoy speaking about it. I have one question that I always ask my guests before we finish up, and that question is to you. It's not digitally marketing related or social media or blogging or anything. It is, if you had the chance to invite someone to dinner, whether it be past or present, who would it be and why?
It's funny to me because my answer is digitally marketing related. This is a age-old question that people ask, right? And usually people are like Einstein or Dalai Lama or somebody famous like that. But what I've found very recently, I've come to this understanding that relationships are critical to me. They're critical to me personally and professionally. And it's the relationships that I have with my peers and colleagues in my industry, which does happen to be obviously digital marketing, that are just so important to my development on so many different levels. But they're not here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So I can't usually go have dinner with my marketing friends. So that's why conferences are so important, like Social Media Marketing World. I never miss those big conferences because they're like family reunions or high school reunion. For a lot of us, we come together, and I see Ian Cleary, who I'm obviously not going to be able to just go to Ireland and have dinner with Ian or Jenny Brennan, or folks like that. So for me, it's having like my best friends like Stephanie Liu and Jen Herman, over for dinner, because we're going to talk about marketing and we're going to talk about our families and the past experiences, and it's going to be an amazing, fun-filled, heart-filling evening. That's what I would do.
Brilliant stuff. I love that.
I know.
I love that. I love that.
I could have answered that with one name, but that's not me.
No, I love it. I think it's so. It is so true, because like I would happily spend an evening with yourself, or with even Ian Cleary, or and I don't mean even if Ian Cleary, but like that. Like people like Joel Comm and stuff like that, where you'd rather be sitting down and enjoying that conversation. Okay, sometimes there is, when you want to say, oh, I'd love to meet X, Y, and Z, the famous, whatever. But, it is what it is. And I do agree with you in respect of, learning from your peers, and also, interacting with them and building them relationships. And that's what it's about, really. Yeah. Really is. Mike, how can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out to you? Well,
I'm on all the different social networks, and unfortunately all the names are different because I was not smart when I created those social profiles. So the best thing to do is go to thesocialmediahat.com. That's my blog. I work at Agorapulse, but I write, and I'll continue to write at thesocialmediahat.com, because that's obviously my passion. I really enjoy writing and teaching about blogging and content marketing. Brilliant stuff.
Well, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you today, and thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It's a real delight to sit and actually chat with you, because it's been quite a while since we've talked. So we'll have to get you back on as well soon for another.
My pleasure.
Another one. Okay. So we're already booking you already for the next one. Okay. Mike, it's a pleasure as always, and we wish you continued success in the future, and keep up that fantastic work, and the blogs are just keep them coming. We're loving every minute of them. All right, so
thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So my thanks to Mike for coming on the podcast today and sharing with us some fantastic tips and tricks and insights on how to blog for your business and make it more professional, and understand the background behind blogging and what it means to do it as well. For more information about Mike, you can jump onto his website at thesocialmediahat.com, and you can also find him across all of the social media networks as well. So as I said, once again, thanks to Mike for coming on and giving us some fantastic insights there. If you'd like to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/resources/podcasts. And all of our podcasts are available on Mixcloud, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts as well. And we would be delighted if you would leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, as we're always thrilled to receive your feedback on any of our podcasts. You can also subscribe to the Social Media Talks podcasts there as well, so you never miss an episode. And if you'd like the show notes for this episode or for any of the previous episodes, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/SM Talks show notes. And if you would like to be a guest on the program, please do get in contact with us. All you have to do is email us at smtalks@compassmedia.ie. And if you want to find out more of the services that Compass Media provide, you can log on to our website for all the details about social media marketing, social media management, podcast services, and some fantastic handy little tools for making your business more effective online. You can also reach out and connect with me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram by logging on and just searching for Alan Hennessy or for Compass Media. I've been Alan Hennessy from compassmedia.ie for the Social Media Talks podcast. And we look forward to your company next week for more of the same. So until next time, have a great week, and as I always say, be social.
Social Media Talks podcast is a production from compassmedia.ie.